I actually owe Natan for being the person who introduced me to AMEC, so he could have probably taken a little bit of my time. So I at least owe him for that. Yeah. So real quickly, my name is Jonathan Sperber. I am the Chief Operating Officer and co-founder of Gudea. We're a very, very new company. We've been around for about 2.5 years, and our specialty is about tracking narratives online, how it spreads, and what happens from there. So a little quick thing also about me. Is anyone here going to be at South by Southwest this weekend? Amazing. We're actually going to be a finalist in the pitch competition. Please come out and see us. We're really excited about it. Going to go through a few narratives. So these are narratives that showed up online, hurt brands, and really affected everything involved. Human trafficking on TikTok, smugglers defy Trump with offers on the social media platform. People that were being told that if they go to the border at a specific time, they'd be receiving benefits, they'd be receiving money, and they'd be taken care of. New York Times, disinformation in Minneapolis, they falsely named the shooter of Renee Good as the CEO of the Star Tribune. This was something that affected the CEO, affected their family, they had death threats, and they were involved. We were quoted in the New York Times because we showed where it starts and how it spreads. And that's the focus of what we do as a company, is show how the narratives can really impact brands. This is our favorite one. We were behind the Rolling Stone article about Taylor Swift, proving that there was a coordinated attack against Taylor Swift. I can probably name who is responsible for it. I will not, because I will be sued. So I'm going to stay away from that, but if you ask me privately, I might be able to tell you, and someone actually kind of confirmed that yesterday for me. Walmart addresses social media rumors that it will close stores when SNAP benefits end. Another just random theory, it comes up on the internet, hurts the brand, and then ends from there. Bud Light controversy, this is probably the most famous one, as well as Target as well, where something comes out online, it really impacts it. Some of it's decision making, some of it's a coordinated attack. We focus on the coordinated attacks. And then this one, which is a really interesting one, was someone just created a fake Eli Lilly account and said, we're giving out insulin for free, $28 billion lost in a matter of an hour. This damage is super, super difficult, and we're going to go through exactly what causes it, what happens, and where it's going to go from here. A little bit about us. We focus on the time to virality, the amplitude, that did not work well, and then the time to dissipation. While a lot of folks are really focused on what's being said at a specific time, this narrative arc is super important because it shows how much time you have to make an answer and how much time you have for it to end. Now, this is also very impactful because I love newspapers, I love traditional media. You all fact check, you all go about it. By the time you get to either pushing back against it or covering it, time has already passed, the narrative is gone, is moved forward and gone in that exact time. So what is the process here? So first, you see the information. Someone online puts out a statement, information, falsely mentioned, and you start it there. Sometimes it gets covered, sometimes it doesn't. A lot of narratives actually take months to build. So they're actually seeding it months before, and then later on it gets covered. Second one is network activation. So these are what I would like to say bots or bad actors that are taking that information, activating it, retweeting it, reposting it, pushing out that narrative. Big trick is that they actually take screenshots. They don't like actually citing a real article. They'll take screenshots and then push it out and say, hey, this is what's happening. Fun fact about that strategy was actually specialized by the Russian government ahead of invasions. They do not like having an original source because that could be proved wrong. So that is the exact one. I used to, before I did all this, I worked in politics for about 7 years. I also worked with the European Union around Russian disinformation. Third one is the influencer validation. So as the narrative starts creeping up, you're seeing influencers getting on that next hot topic. They're going to take it, they're not going to verify it, they're going to run with it, and it's going to hurt the brand. Fourth one, which is a very interesting one, and it's a really big challenge for a lot of social listening companies as a whole, the origin will originally disappear. So that first poster will take down their information. If we're not caching that data, so us as a company, we cache that data. If you're not caching that data, you're not able to find the original source. And that's the point. It's designed to show up and disappear in a matter of minutes. And then finally, mainstream pickup. This is when news agencies, this is when some blogs will then pick it up. By that point, the story's already out, it's already spread. So we're gonna walk through what happens with a few of these. The Minnesota Star Tribune, I'm gonna start with that one and walk through that process. Then I'm gonna walk through our work on Taylor Swift, and then I'm gonna walk through what happens when you actually push against a narrative. So we became our own conspiracy theory when we put out our piece on Rolling Stone. So this is Steve Grove. Truth be told, I got reached out to by his wife, who is part of the venture capital firm behind us. So this was a favor that we did for them. This is something that we were doing, is they started getting death threats out of nowhere. The first posting happened on January 7th at 1:55 that was saying that Renee Good's shooter was Steve Grove. The account behind it, in their, just like in their Twitter bio, says, "I hate Minnesota media." Very easy. 5 p.m. hit, it hit mainstream media, it hit some of those influencers that you see on Twitter, it started covering in TikTok, it started covering in Instagram, it showed up on Facebook. They were going through his wife's Facebook saying, "You're married to a killer, I'm gonna get you," and they're leaking their information. By the next day, so from when this started at 1:55, 24 hours pass before they actually properly name the shooter. During that time, death threats, he's in hiding, they had to put out security. All of that happens in a matter of an hour before anyone can cover it and fix it. I worked with the Star Tribune about actually coming out with a response, pushing out that response against some of these folks and actually getting it to in real time. And that's the importance of what is happening and what the worry is. I'm not sure if this video is gonna play, but here's a little bit of a look of how we do it. This might not work. There's a video that says exactly what we do. But so the next one we're going to go into is the Taylor Swift article. So mind you, this Rolling Stone article happened in December. That's 2 months from the first mention of Taylor Swift being called a Nazi. Here are some of the mentions from there. Now, like I said, I will not name who probably is behind it, but this was a coordinated attack. Based off of our research, the same people who are going after Taylor Swift are the same folks going after Blake Lively, going after Justin Bieber, and going after a few other folks. This was confirmed to me that this is also a common trend that is going to be happening for both brands, individuals, is folks are going to be spinning up bot armies to go after their opposing brands to take market share. This is a growing threat that has never been more of a threat to this day. One thing about us as a company, we track over 500 plus social media sites. Not all of them are active at any specific time. I'm not going to tell you that they are, but we saw this conversation over 14 different platforms. Like I said, December 9th, this started out in October. And within this process, if you looked at the overarching authentic information, so we detect bots within our system, if you just looked at the information, it looks legitimate. It says 5% are bots. If you look at specifically the narrative calling her a Nazi, it switches to about 40% are bots. What happened after this was folks were really, really focused about debunking what we were saying. Folks were upset saying, "You're claiming that we're bots, we are real people." We at no point have ever said that it's all bots. You need a small percentage of an audience to be able to push out this information, and that's all you really need. You need maybe 10 to 15% to elevate a narrative, and then from there you just walk away. You always cause a destruction, you let it go, you let it burn, you let the entire system move from there. And that's where we came in. We then became a conspiracy theory. Everyone was upset about what we wrote. Everyone was angry. You probably saw TikToks. Everyone I know was calling me saying, "Hey, everyone's making weird statements about you." We're a 2.5-year-old company. No one cares about us. I'm not a person of any significance in this world. There's conspiracy theories taking my LinkedIn, my background, and all of that information and making assumptions about me as a whole. And that's the problem when you come to these false narratives is it doesn't take much to send it off, and people don't like to be labeled as wrong. People don't like to be tricked, and they don't want to be admitted to that they were tricked. And it gets really bad, and here's a kind of a look at that cycle. Narrative first mention, inauthentic accounts amplify, media picks up the story. This is going to happen every single year at this point. We saw this with Cracker Barrel, we saw this with American Eagle, we saw this with Walmart, Target, McDonald's. Every single big name is going to experience this problem, and this is going to grow continuously. A lot of tools focus on what has already happened. This is what we're trying to do, is say, where is this going to go? How long is this going to last? You actually have to do something about this. So what is the messaging and narratives that you have to do to push it? Because if you do respond to this, you will get backlash. Unless it's a narrative that is completely false and you can easily push back on it, you're going to get pushback and people are going to accuse you of some really bad things. Just a little bit of information. I want to save some room for actually questions because I love questions. About 5% of annual stakeholder value comes from protecting your reputation. For a company like Walmart, that's $25 billion. It's not a small amount of money. It's pretty impactful. And we're seeing this with some of the largest brands, and they're getting absolutely trampled by this. I will also note that moving forward, especially with the large AI labs, we're going to see a lot of foreign actors also being involved in this topic. That was what my specialty was. If you can unseat an American business, it helps other countries, and that is going to be a new target moving forward. So what can be learned from these examples? It's really hard to stop. That's probably the hardest thing, and that's the area from here. Second one, it's going to get worse. With bot armies now, it's going to be worse. We just started loading in Moltbook. If anyone knows, they just got bought out by Meta. That is just a Reddit for AI. So we are now pulling in that information to see, what are you all trying to do? Are you all coordinating? It's a very, very surreal world. It's not about what happened. It's about what's about to happen. So it's not about looking back saying this was something bad, this is something we want to avoid in the future. It's about what's going to happen, and also, this will never end. The stories that impacted companies like Target, it's still making reverberations this year. Every single time Pride Month comes around these days, people are still worried. Anyways, so that is it. I would love to answer any kind of questions, can talk about the research. I will also say that if you go to gudea.ai/TS, you actually can see the real report that we did about Taylor Swift. Any kind of questions?
I think we have time for one question. Yes, Dino, in the back. Please wait for a microphone so our virtual audience can hear you.
Are you really not going to tell us who was after Taylor Swift?
Probably. It doesn't take that long to find. Talk to me privately, I can say
How
it.
many drinks?
I don't know if anyone's representing him as a client.
Thanks for making it awkward for our speaker, Dino.